Ladies and gentlemen, greetings from UNEP's Faith for Earth Coalition and happy World Environment Day. This year's theme of the World Environment Day is Our Land, Our Future, focusing on land restoration, desertification, and drought resilience to drive solutions. While UNEP and many other partners have established scientific reports and guidelines in addition to policies and global national strategies, I believe it is important to highlight that there are other alternatives. Those alternatives depend on religious theologies, teachings, and practices. The faith-based approaches to environmental stewardship often take a holistic view of the relationship between humans, nature, and the divine, recognizing the interconnectedness of all living beings and the spiritual dimensions of environmental care, which can complement scientific understandings and contribute to more holistic and integrated solutions to the environmental crisis. Given the emphasis on land restoration, desertification, and drought resilience for World Environment Day of 2024, incorporating faith-based actions can help engage communities and individuals who are motivated by religious principles. Faith actors can bring several angles to the commemoration of the World Environment Day based on the principles and values of different religions, including stewardship and responsibility, gratitude and reverence, community engagement, environmental justice, education and awareness, and interfaith cooperation. Today, I am delighted to highlight that Al-Mizan, Covenant for the Earth, as an Islamic strategic approach not only to sustainability managed land or land resources, but also a way of life that promotes living in harmony with nature. Let's start by understanding Islam. Islam offers a comprehensive framework of environmental ethics aimed at rescuing humanity and other lives from the ongoing ecological disasters. The power of Muslims to influence and address environmental issues is significant, given their demographic, cultural, and economic impact at the global level. Here are several dimensions of this influence. Well, as we know, Muslims constitute 1.8 billion adherents. Muslims make up about 24% of the world's population. This large number provides a substantial base for collective action and advocacy on environmental issues. Coordinated efforts by Muslim communities can lead to significant positive environmental impacts. Muslim majority countries are often rich in natural resources like oil, gas, and minerals. The economic dimensions made in these countries, particularly regarding to resource extraction and energy use, have substantial environmental implications. Islamic teachings on environmental stewardship, sustainability, and the prohibition of waste can motivate Muslims to adopt and promote eco-friendly practices. Religious leaders and scholars can play a crucial role by issuing fatwas, which is the religious rulings in Islam, and providing guidance that emphasizes environmental protection as a religious duty. Muslim majority countries, through organizations like the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, can influence international environmental policies by advocating for global environmental agreements and collaborating with other nations. These countries can play a crucial role in shaping international environmental norms and standards. Grassroots movements within Muslim communities can lead to substantial local environmental improvements. Community-based projects such as tree plantation, waste management programs, and sustainable agricultural practices can be driven by Islamic principles of stewardship and social justice. Islamic finance principles, which prohibit investments in harmful activities and emphasize ethical investment, can support green projects and sustainable development. Islamic banks and financial institutions can prioritize funding for renewable energy projects and environmentally friendly businesses. In this context, an initiative supported by the UNEP Faith for Earth Coalition brought together prominent Islamic organizations, scientists, and environmental experts to launch the development of Al-Mizan as a tool for achieving environmental sustainability. A holistic approach that focuses on the importance of cultural and religious teachings in promoting positive behavioral change. Al-Mizan document starts with an introduction describing the state of the earth, where it highlights the environmental issues our planet is facing, the unsustainable consumption practices of our natural resources, the anthropocentric impact on climate change, loss of biodiversity, and the overall collapse of ecosystems. Al-Mizan captures diverse key concepts and terms profoundly rooted in Islamic principles and environmental perspectives. These concepts not only align with the current global environmental movement, but also provide a strong ethical framework for addressing today's pressing environmental crisis. The principle of Mizan, or balance in English, highlights the interconnectedness and harmony of all elements of the natural world, underpinned by divine order and human responsibility. Tawazun, or proportionality, emphasizes maintaining balance and moderation in resource use and environmental impact. Tawheed, or oneness of God, underscores the interconnectedness of all creation under divine sovereignty, while the concept of Khalifa, or stewardship, reinforces humanity's role as caretakers of the earth, entrusted by God to protect and sustain the environment. The Islamic principle of adl, or justice, emphasizing fairness and equity in the distribution and management of resources, is at the heart of all principles. Around 50 concepts are discussed in Al-Mizan in the context of ecological balance, emphasizing the preservation of nature as part of God's creation. If I focus on land degradation and ecosystem restoration, the theme of the World Environment Day, Al-Mizan outlines several Islamic principles that can contribute to restoring ecosystems and preventing the degradation of land. For example, the principles of tayyib and halal consumption. Food should not only be lawful halal, but also pure and good, like tayyib. This implies a broader ethical responsibility in food consumption that includes minimizing suffering and destruction and ensuring the methods of food production are sustainable and not harmful to the environment. The principle of ihsan, the excellence in all things, this principle calls for the excellence and utmost goodness in all actions, including the taking of life for food. This extends to humane and ethical treatment on farming, hunting, and fishing, emphasizing minimizing suffering and ensuring sustainability. The principle of prohibition of ifsad, or corruption on earth, the Al-Mizan condemns ifsad, corruption, which includes the destruction, degradation, and desecration of the earth. Industrial agriculture, hunting practices that threatens species, and practices leading to climate change are considered forms of ifsad that must be avoided. The principle of avoiding israf, which is wasteful, of excess. Wasteful excess in any form, including overconsumption and unnecessary killing, is prohibited. This principle encourages sustainable practices that do not deplete natural resources or lead to environmental harm. The protection of habitats and species, and this goes against causing harm to native plants and wildlife, as exemplified by the sanctity of the Haramain, the two holy sanctuaries in Mecca and Al-Medina, promotes the conservation of natural habitats and biodiversity. The traditional conservation methods or practices like Hima and Harim, the revival of such traditional Islamic conservation practices such as Hima, protected areas, or Harim, environmental green belts, can play a significant role in environmental conservation. These practices emphasize the protection of ecosystems for the common good and sustainable use. The principles of awqaf or charitable endowments, these are dedicated to conservation, what is called as waqf, can support environmental protection initiatives, demonstrating a commitment to public welfare and preservation of natural resources. Al-Mizan proposed key elements for ecosystem restoration based on ethical, or what we call the Sharia, the Islamic law, including foresights in planning. So planning for development should also and always include the assessment of environmental impacts to minimize damage to natural environment and depletion of natural resources. The principle of consultation and participatory planning, this is reflected in the principle of shura, which is consultation with the people affected by their plans, promoting participatory planning and collaborative management involving key stakeholders. The compliance with natural laws, human planning and design should comply with the natural law and patterns working in harmony with the inherent disposition, which is called the fitra of nature. Local sustainability also is important, emphasizing the thriving within the local environment's riches and limitations, encouraging the consumption of local foods, use of local materials, cultivation of native plants, and conservation of local wildlife. The examples of Islamic garden or the tradition of that, utilizing the Islamic garden tradition as a framework for designing with nature, focusing on life-sustaining practices such as growing food, providing water, and creating habitats for wildlife. Striving for ihsan aim to achieve utmost good and beauty in environmental stewardship, enhancing the natural landscape to bring more life to the land. Commanding good and averting evil by calling upon individuals and responsible for promoting good and averting wrong, supported by the force of law and political authority to ensure justice and equity. Environmental activism is important in Islam, and that is reflected in Al-Mizan. So individual responsibility, each person is responsible for influencing family, neighbors, and society towards ethical environmental behavior. Educational awareness and advocacy, promoting of these is to protect the environment, emphasizing peaceful and ethical means of resistance if necessary. Striving for the well-being of creation, Muslims are encouraged to devote their lives to removing corruption on earth and striving for the well-being of all communities of life in accordance with the principles of utmost goodness. These elements collectively advocate for a comprehensive, ethical, and participatory approach to ecosystem restoration, grounded in Islamic principles of sustainability, justice, and environmental stewardship. So, for the World Environment Day, what are the actions that can be taken by Islamic organizations and individuals to practically commemorate such an event? First, in water conservation, Islamic teachings emphasize the importance of water as a precious resource. Muslim communities have implemented water conservation measures such as rainwater harvesting, water recycling, and efficient irrigation techniques in agriculture. Provide education and training for women on water conservation practices in households and communities, empowering them to take a leading role in managing water resources effectively. Irrigate water conservation education into school curricula and youth programs, empowering young people to become advocates of water sustainability and champions of water saving practices in their communities. Second, Islamic gardens. Those gardens are characterized by their use of water features, lush vegetation, and geometric designs, serve as a symbol or a symbolic attribute to the paradise on earth. Many mosques and Islamic institutions incorporate gardens into their architecture, promoting environmental beauty and conservation of biodiversity. Encourage women's participation in designing, cultivating, and maintaining Islamic gardens within mosques and compounds of Islamic communities, spaces, creating opportunities for women to connect with nature and engage in environmental stewardship. Create spaces for children and youth to explore and engage with Islamic gardens, organizing educational tours, workshops, and hands on activities that teach them about the significance of nature in Islam and the principles of environmental stewardship. Third, Green Ramadan. During the month of Ramadan, Muslims engage in acts of charity and self discipline. Some Muslims communities have launched Green Ramadan initiatives, encouraging fasting practices that minimize food waste and environmental impact, as well as promoting eco-friendly habitat such as recycling and energy conservation. We should also organize women-led initiatives during Ramadan focused on sustainable food practices, waste reduction, and eco-friendly lifestyle choices, fostering a sense of environmental responsibility among women within Muslim communities. Involve young people in Green Ramadan initiatives, encouraging them to participate in eco-friendly Ramadan practices such as reducing food waste, minimizing plastic usage, and supporting environmentally conscious Ramadan events and activities. I hope that this has contributed to raising the awareness on Islamic approaches to sustainability, and I have shed some light on what is included in Al-Mizan, and I hope that this will aid you in designing programs that could be part of the global efforts to sustainability. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and again, happy World Environment Day.